Excellent. And at this time, we'd like to get started. But welcome everyone to the Legacy Scholars Summer Orientation Virtual Series, brought to you by the Battle Creek College Access Network and Legacy Scholars. This series is an adaptation of our in-person orientations, which traditionally take place on campus at Kellogg Community College. Of course, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, our office and those of our community partners are dedicated to ensuring our students and parents have the information they need to successfully enroll the student in Kellogg Community College using their eligible Legacy Scholarship credit hours. So we thank you so much for your time today. I'd like to actually begin the webinar presentation with some important housekeeping notes. For new attendees, please remember that this is a three-part series, and we invite you to stay tuned in across all three sessions. The recordings of these webinar presentations will be made available in the event that someone misses their scheduled time or were unable to register in the first place. And a note to those who've previously attended session one, all registrants should have received by this time the session one recording. If you have not, please send an email to myself, Terry Burleson, at terry@battlecreekcan.org, and we can make sure that you receive the proper link to view that information. As you'll see on your screen, we will be offering raffling off prizes for attendance. Each eligible Legacy Scholar earns a raffle entry by attending each of the three webinar presentations. Those prizes are one backpack, one Texas Instrument 84 Plus graphing calculator, and one Lenovo Chromebook Flex laptop. The drawing occurs after the series conclusion, and we will notify the winners via email. Please also remember that a survey will be distributed following each session of the webinar series. We ask that you please take those surveys after you've either viewed the live presentation or viewed a recording, and help us to improve our virtual presentations going forward. And lastly, at any time throughout the presentation, please use the question and answer feature on your toolbar that's on the bottom or the top of your screen, and we will have time during the last 15 minutes of the broadcast to address any of those questions. So no need to hold the question until the end. Pop it in the queue and we'll reach that Q&A period at the last 15 minutes. So without further ado, my name is Terry Burleson. I am one of your presenters today. I serve as the program officer with the Battle Creek College Access Network. I work closely with students to help them troubleshoot application issues and navigate processes between different institutions, and I also manage student success programming as well. At this time, I'd like Laura to please introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura Zala and I'm the Senior Program Officer with Battle Creek CAN. I work alongside Terry and oversee all of our programming and student success initiatives, as well as eligibility for Legacy Scholars. And the outreach and letting students know of their eligibility and how they are able to use the scholarship.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura. That is the BC CAN, Battle Creek College Access Network staff. We are also joined today by our session 2 guest, Nicole Cook. Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself? Go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Nicole Cook, and I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at Kellogg Community College, and I'm looking forward to going over all of the processes to getting Legacy awarded to you.
Excellent. Very good. So thank you everyone for being here today. Just a quick word about the Battle Creek College Access Network. Please remember that we are a partnering initiative of the Battle Creek Community Foundation, and you may see us around the community virtually for now, but once we get back into the normal swing of things, you will see us around with free FAFSA and SAT workshops. a healthcare career pipeline project that is intended to expose ethnic minority and underrepresented students in 8th grade to healthcare careers. And we do that in partnership with the Homer D. Stryker School of Medicine at Western Michigan University. We also pair eager sophomore students with local businesses during the annual Sophomore Future Track event. This is a one-day hands-on career experience where students are paired according to their career and career pathway interests. And we also administer the Legacy Scholarship. And so you may see us do support programming for the scholarship, such as today with our webinar presentation, but also in the community at events, giving out free prizes. So stop by and say hello to us if you do ever see us. So in session 1, the Legacy Scholarship overview, we covered the Legacy Scholarship in detail, how it supports students, how to access eligible credit hours, and also explored the ways in which students can maximize use of the Legacy Scholarship. Today, we hope to dig a little bit deeper into the 3 required documents that must be submitted with the Battle Creek Community Foundation Universal Scholarship application, but also to explore the relationship between our processes and those of the Kellogg Community College Office of Financial Aid. So we'll wrap up today's presentation with a Q&A period, as well as some helpful contact information and a preview of session 3. So please recall that the Legacy Scholarship is accessed through the Battle Creek Community Foundation website, their Universal Scholarship application. This system essentially evaluates all the scholarship criteria for a student and then creates unique scholarship applications so that various student awards can be considered by our community-led committees. As you see on your screen here, this is the image you will see when you successfully arrive at the BCCF Scholarship website. Please note that you will always see the posted deadline outlined in red for the upcoming financial aid year. And you'll also have buttons where you can apply or continue your application. And this is simply the login screen where a student will utilize the email address they have on file for their scholarship application as well as their password. They will create an account only once, and then from that time on to reapply every year, they can submit those credentials and log back into the system. During session 1, we outlined for everyone 3 required documents that must be attached to a student's Universal Scholarship application with the Community Foundation. So we're going to take a look at the transcript, the FAFSA, and the financial aid award components. We're going to talk about what they look like, how to find them, as well as acceptable file formats that we as staff can receive. So let's start with the transcript. The transcript of your most recent grades is the first required document, and this may look different depending on the student. For our class of 2020, those students were required to submit a sample of, to submit a copy of their high school transcript. You can see that here on the left. A student can retrieve an official copy of their transcript from their school counselor or their school's registrar. For the purposes of the scholarship application, the transcript that the student provides must show the full name of the student and the graduation year. For those students who are returning to utilize their scholarship for the 2nd or 3rd year, they will provide us a copy of their most recent grades, as you can see outlined here in the sample college transcript. That will be located within the student's college web portal of their primary institution, wherever they were attending most recently. And for the purposes of this type of transcript, we must be able to see the student's full name, the grades that they are for, and some indication of what school that transcript is for. So as you can see, this sample college transcript from Kellogg Community College has the name posted, as well as has some sort of official watermark on the document that lets us know that it came from a secure location. We can accept that transcript, whether it be high school or college transcript. We can accept that, and students can upload that as a portable document format, also known as PDF, essentially a universal standard nowadays. But a student can also submit an image or a screenshot. These file types are generally called JPEG, or most commonly also PNG. A special note is that, unfortunately, whether a student is accessing the transcript from their college web portal or from a system within their high school that lets them remotely access their transcripts, we cannot accept web links. So you cannot copy and paste the URL expecting that the staff can view that, because unfortunately it requires credentials that are unique and private to the student. So please send your transcripts as a PDF, JPEG, or PNG. Next is the FAFSA. The FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And students must submit the FAFSA each year, even if they do not anticipate receiving or being eligible for federal financial aid. Once that FAFSA is processed, it provides a student aid report. The student aid report is essentially a summary of the student or the family's financial information, and it's used by the student's primary institution to determine what awards are available to them. So as a required document for the Battle Creek Community Foundation scholarship application, and certainly as part of the process to attend at Kellogg Community College using the Legacy Scholarship, we must be able to see the student's full name, the current academic year, and this little number in this top box called the EFC, or Expected Family Contribution. You'll notice in the Battle Creek Community Foundation Scholarship Universal Application, there is a specific line item which asks the student to repeat the EFC that is found on their student aid report. This student aid report can be accessed by visiting the official FAFSA website, fafsa.ed.gov, or you can search via Google. Just make sure you avoid fafsa.com. You will, of course, when you do log on to the proper site, you will see the fafsa.gov logo to let you know that it is official. For the student aid report, we can accept a PDF copy of the document, which is downloaded from the site. But from personal experience, I can tell you that the FAFSA PDF, depending on pop-up blockers or other unique computers, might not download properly. So if a student finds themselves in that position, they can copy the entirety of the student aid report information, paste it into a Word document and submit the Word document. Or they can also provide an image to us or a screenshot of a JPEG format or a PNG format. If none of those acceptable formats work, we can work with the student to accept. There's one other option, and that is a confirmation. We can help the student locate that, but ideally it would come in one of these three primary formats. And please remember that a web link from your FAFSA account will not function because we do not have your FSA ID and password to log in to see that information. That is your second required document. The third and final required document is the financial aid award letter. And this comes in two forms depending on a student's information. But what we can say is that once every student, the schools that they had outlined on the FAFSA, once those schools receive that financial information of the student and the family, they then work to produce the award letter. So let's take these one at a time. I'll direct your attention to the left. This is a sample financial aid award letter. And as you can see, Kellogg Community College is notifying our anonymous student that for the year 2020-2021, the academic year, That student will be receiving a federal Pell Grant, as well as some additional scholarships as well, or awards as well. Seen here is the Visual and Performing Arts Scholarship, followed by a specific foundation scholarship that the student received. Now, if a student's FAFSA information, their EFC, was such a high number that it was concluded the student would not receive or be eligible for federal financial aid, then that student would receive what is called a no-need letter, and that's located here to your right. The no-need letter indicates that for that academic year, the student may not receive any financial aid, but the legacy scholarship is not determined by a family's financial standing. It's determined by the eligibility that we reviewed in session 1, which is your enrollment history in eligible school districts. So if your student is set to receive awards, then they're going to want to review their KCC email regularly, return any required documents, which Nicole will talk about in her presentation, and send us the award letter once it becomes available. Or they'll check their KCC email where it will be indicated that they may not qualify. One of these 2 letters will satisfy the 3rd required component. And again, we can accept those documents as PDFs, as Word documents, as images or screenshots, but we cannot accept web links from a student's KCC Bruin portal. So that's very important. Just as a quick review of the application timeline, we took a look at this in session 1, just to give folks an idea of when these documents become available to the student. So students can begin their Universal Scholarship application at the Battle Creek Community Foundation as of or around November 1st. By December 1st, a transcript of their most recent grades should be available to them. Around January 1st, students should likely be able to upload their FAFSA student aid report. And then please keep in mind that the deadline to submit the scholarship application is March 1st. That is the time at which the student will continue to monitor closely their Bruin portal email to ensure that they're not getting requests for documents. Once that financial aid award letter or no-need letter becomes available to the student, they can send that to our office via email, and then we can upload it manually into their submitted application. Please keep in mind that not paying attention to this timeline could result in you missing consideration for scholarships beyond the legacy scholarship. And then, of course, during the summer is when we like to communicate the first batch of that recipient information to KCC so that financial aid accounts can be updated. And then we send a weekly updated list and work closely with the Office of Financial Aid to ensure that once the materials required to be submitted are there, we can get that information on the student's account. So that is a review of the application components as well as the application timeline. And at this time, I'd like to invite Nicole Cook to begin her presentation in explaining kind of what happens after the student submits their required information to our offices, and then they begin that enrollment process. So give me just one quick second and I will bring up Nicole's presentation for everyone to view. Beautiful. All right, and Nicole, you can go ahead and get started when you're ready.
All right, wonderful. So again, my name's Nicole, and we're just going to talk about navigating financial aid for your legacy scholarship. Next slide. Thank you. So, like Terry mentioned, every year the FAFSA has to be filed, and the way to do this is by going out to this website here, studentaid.gov. If you have any questions or concerns about filing the FAFSA, you can definitely get a hold of us, and I do have our contact information at the end of this presentation. But once that FAFSA is filed, then the student needs to continually check their KCC email and the self-service account through the Bruin portal. So once your application is in, your admissions application, then a KCC email will be provided to you, as well as your KID. And within 24 hours, you should have access to your student email account, and therefore we'll be able to communicate to you that way throughout the entire process. Next slide, please. So common verification documents that you'll see in the Bruin portal from the financial aid office will be a copy of your high school transcript or diploma. Now, the registrar's office, they are going to verify your residency, and we'll talk more about that later. But also, if you're wanting to transfer in credits from any college that you may have attended later on throughout your college career, then they prefer a transcript. And I will say for the financial aid office, it's either or for us. It doesn't matter. You either submit the transcript or the diploma. For the financial aid office, which you'll also see in the Bruin portal, is the dependent verification worksheet. And again, these are common verification documents. There may be others, but you can always give our office a call, and we'll go on to the next slide and we'll start talking about these different verification documents. So for verifying residency, basically what you want to do is ensure that at some point in time that you provide the acceptable documentation for establishing and proving your residency. And that includes a valid driver's license, a Michigan ID card, voter registration card, a lease agreement showing your name as an occupant, or business mail received in your name at the stated address. And this is important because you should be able to do this so that you're able to register for classes, for one, and get the correct tuition and fee rate, okay? And this information that you're viewing now is available on the website that's presented right below the graph, the picture there, the graphic image. So if you're getting this sent to you at a later date, definitely take a look at the website for the registrar's office in regards to verifying your residency. Next slide. All right. So going back to financial aid and the required documents for financial aid, once the FAFSA is in, it's not a one and done and that's an it situation. 9 times out of 10, there's going to be something else that we need from you, the student, or from parents. And typically, when students are coming straight out of high school, the first thing that we're looking for is verification of high school graduation. That includes a high school transcript. An example here of what you need to see that you have a grad, all of the credits that you've taken in high school present. And you can get this from your high school counselor. You can contact them by email to obtain a copy of this. Or if you're unable to get your transcript right away, but you have your high school diploma that's been sent to you in the mail, you can take a photo of this and send it to us to verify that you have completed high school. Again, the easiest way to do a lot of this is through your KCC student email account. If you are able to scan and attach it to an email, or if you're able to take a picture of it and send it to us, we will definitely take it and satisfy that requirement for you. All right, the next common form that we request here in the financial aid office once your FAFSA is filed is the dependent verification worksheet. the very front page here, the first page, yes, that says 2020-2021 dependent verification worksheet. That there is asking for the student's information. And underneath that box at the bottom, the very first line there, the student is going to put themselves as self. And from that part, the next line, the parent would then put their information there as well. And we really want to know who's in the household for your parent that you're living with. So if you're in a situation where you're living with mom, but dad's in another household, you definitely want to talk about mom, who she's now married to, she's been remarried, and all of the siblings that are in the household, and you'll list them right there in that area. And you would also indicate if your siblings who are in that household are going to college, because that does make a difference in the amount of aid that you could potentially receive. So from that first page, we move on to the second page, and this is just asking you more or less about your income information. So for the student, we like for you to identify if you worked and if you filed taxes. There are some instances where you worked, you made enough money, you filed taxes, and you do have a 1040 available, or you can electronically import your taxes through the FAFSA. Sometimes it gives you that option to do that. And I do recommend using the data retrieval tool. That's the way to electronically file that in the FAFSA. If you did file your taxes for the, excuse me, we're into 2021, so 2018 tax year. From there, if you work but you didn't receive you didn't do a 1040, what you want to do is you want to provide us with your W-2 forms, and we'll put in that income information. You can also jot it down in this area as well, so that we can see it there, but that is a requirement, will be the W-2 forms, even if you did not file. And the same rules apply for the parent as well. So if mom worked, or again, mom's been remarried, so your parents worked and filed, then we definitely need for them to either give us their 1040 or to do the DRT, which is the data retrieval tool in FAFSA, or if they worked but they didn't make enough money to file, just to provide that income verification by giving us a copy of the W-2. And then last but not least, for this form, we're going to ask about the income that was received that was untaxed. And majority of the time for the student is going to be zero. You know, if you're in the military, had combat pay or anything of that nature, we definitely want to know about that. But if these don't apply to you, such as child support, so on and so forth, just put a zero down on that side for the student. And for parent, fill that out to the best of your knowledge, and then go ahead and have both student and parent sign. And again, this form can either be scanned and emailed, taken by picture and emailed to us for processing. But of course, you could always fax and bring it in face-to-face if need be while we're open during this time. All right, so satisfactory academic progress. After all forms have been put into place, your account has been verified, there may be an issue where we're unable to award you your legacy because after a couple of years of attending at Kellogg Community College, which is where legacy is only applicable to, maybe after a few semesters you didn't do so well. What ends up happening is, and I'll take it back to the beginning, our office checks for satisfactory academic progress each semester. So if you're having a difficult time completing or attempting credit hours each semester or maintaining a 2.0 GPA, you will be at risk of losing your financial aid. And what it does is it causes non-disbursement of your federal student aid if you're receiving Pell Grant or anything else. And it also causes non-disbursement of your legacy award. So the best thing to do is, if you find yourself in that situation where you didn't have a very successful semester or two, is to complete a satisfactory academic progress appeal. And I believe we'll get into that momentarily, but basically you just need to have an appealable circumstance and let us know what happened and why. From there, there's also the maximum time frame suspension. Your legacy is not affected by this. And the reason being is because the maximum time frame doesn't mean that you didn't do well. It just means that you have taken a lot of credits for your program, and we just need to know where you are and to ensure you're going to graduate. So if you're transferring in credits from another institution, or you have changed your major a couple of times, and now you finally stuck with the one that speaks to you, but yet you have all these other credits, that will put you in this max time frame suspension. We put your payments on pause, but again, your legacy scholarship will disperse, and if it hasn't, and you notice that you are a max time frame, give our office a call and we'll make sure that your legacy disperses for you. But if you want your Pell Grant or anything else to disperse, you have to do an appeal form for that to go through. And there's a link there at the bottom for more information. Yes, thank you, Terry. Next, yes, so this is a copy of what that satisfactory academic progress appeal looks like. Again, this is for if you're struggling in your semesters. We're just going to ask you to detail what happened and what steps you're going to take to ensure that you're on track towards graduation. And we may even suggest that you speak with the Bridge, who offers tutoring services, or someone in support services. If you identify that you have a disability, we may ask that you connect with those resources moving forward before we formally approve your appeal. All right, next time frame appeal. So this one's a little bit different. Again, this is if you've accumulated a lot of credits. Your legacy will disperse. However, if you want your Pell Grant to pay as well, this needs to be on file. We need to know how many credits you have left remaining in the program that you're currently in when you plan to graduate. This form requires that you do meet with an academic advisor and get a program evaluation completed so that they can outline for you the classes that you have remaining, and again, help you to determine your graduation date. Both of these forms, all of these forms have to be submitted to the financial aid office to reinstate all of your financial aid. All right, so submitting required documentation to our office. Here's our fax number available there, as well as our email address. And you can currently come in Monday through Thursday to meet with us between the hours of 9 and 3 p.m. to drop off documents. It's a touchless system where you just put in your documents and we scan them in for you and answer any questions that you have. But again, you have to schedule an appointment to do that. So if you're able to do things by email or by fax, that would be more efficient. But we do have the capability to see you because we love our students, of course, and we do like the fact that we're able to do that now. There are other virtual services available where you are able to make appointments to meet with academic advising, or if testing services, if you need to test and to get placed into the correct class. We do have all of those services online and available to you, and those links are right there for your convenience. All right, so documentation recap. FAFSA, that needs to be on file, proof of residency for class registration, verification documents, and any appeal forms must be on file to and approved for a completed financial aid account. Once your file is complete, you will either receive an award letter in the Bruin portal, Okay, again, you'll get access to that once you do your admissions application. And once you get into the Bruin portal, under the financial aid self-service link, you will see your award letter. And that's if you've been granted Pell Grant, for instance, you'll have that out there. And you can get that to Terry Burleson, BC CAM program manager, so that he's able to complete that application for you for Legacy if you do have that award letter. Now, if you don't see an award letter, check your student email account. You can also access your student email through the Bruin portal as well. And you may see that you've received a no-need letter. The no-need letter, which is my right, just indicates that you were not awarded the Pell Grant, and you can forward that right on over to BC CAN, letting them know that your file is complete with financial aid and you have not been awarded anything at that time. All right, so a bit of information that's super, super, super important, because again, thinking back on all of those documents that we just talked about, dependent verification worksheet, the high school transcript and all that jazz, if you have an incomplete financial aid file and you don't have the award letter on hand or the no need letter to give to BC CAN to finish your Legacy scholarship application, then what happens is that we can't award you. And as a result, this is kind of what happens along the process when we don't meet the deadlines. Payment plans are required for each semester that students register. And so if you enter into a payment plan prior to, or if you are able to make it on July 23rd, and you don't have Legacy or financial aid, you'll be required to pay a $30 non-refundable enrollment fee to hold your registered classes. Okay, so this is all for fall semester, fall 2020. Again, if you would have to pay that non-refundable fee. And then the remaining balance is broken down into 4 monthly payments beginning August and the last payment in November. Those payments would cease once you do have Legacy on there. And we'll talk about the refund for the payments made. Again, that $30 is non-refundable. The second option here, if you have payment plan that is made July 24th to August 19th without Legacy or financial aid, you'll be required to pay a $30 non-refundable enrollment fee plus a 25% down payment. The remaining balance is broken into 3 monthly payments beginning September and the last payment in November. And then if you enter into a payment plan made on August 20th through September 24th without Legacy or financial aid, again, there's the $30 non-refundable enrollment fee and a 40% down payment. The remaining balance is then broken down into 2 monthly payments, October and November. So students with Legacy and financial aid, let's say they have Pell or you have TIP, you must also enter into a payment plan, and you are not required to pay the non-refundable fee or make any type of down payment. Any bookstore charge is not covered because you have a $500 book stipend. If you go over that $500 and it's not covered, that remaining charge will be split into 2 monthly payments in the months of November and December. Now going back to the students who may wait to do the process and miss the deadlines, and you have to make a down payment or make a monthly payment, if your Legacy scholarship is added finally at a later date, or you finally have enough financial aid on your account to cover your balance, a refund will be generated to you beginning September 14th. So you just want to make sure that everything is finalized and in place to receive a refund by September 14th. We will continue to roll out refunds throughout the year, but you definitely want to be ahead of the game and make sure that everything's in order for that as early as possible. Questions or concerns regarding the payment plan can be addressed here at this link at the very bottom. And then you can also contact our office for clarification as well. All right, so this kind of gives you an outlook of what the process looks like for a Legacy Scholar. There's two departments that you're working with. You're working with the Legacy Scholars through BCCAN, and then with the financial aid office. So I will start with, the Legacy Scholarship application process. You definitely want to get through that. You want to look at the terms and conditions after you have everything completed. But the interesting piece about that is that you have to go through financial aid to even finish the Legacy process. So you get your FAFSA in, you get that award letter after your verification documents are in, or that no need letter, and then you provide it to BCCAN, and then that completes your scholarship application process, and then you get the terms and conditions letter, and then you're done. All right, so that concludes the end of the financial aid presentation. And then here's our contact information as well. The school code right there is available for you so that you're able to readily put it into your FAFSA application if you haven't already.
Excellent. So thank you so much, Nicole. That was actually very helpful. If our attendees will just give me a moment, I'm going to bring our presentation back here. And I will resume sharing. And now everyone should see that we've finished the financial aid presentation. And now we'll move into the Legacy Scholarship appeals process just very quickly. Keep in mind that after I speak on our appeals process and kind of talk about the difference between the two, you're more than welcome to submit questions to the bot. And Laura will be managing our Q&A portion here in a second. But I wanted to just bring the Legacy Scholarship appeals process that we discussed in session 1 back into the equation, because these are still things that are happening between two different institutions and for two different reasons. So just to clarify, a student will, if they have a disagreement about how their eligibility was determined, or if they need to request part-time status, or if they're having issues collecting their FAFSA and financial aid award letters, that they would then submit an appeal to our office, and this is prior to even enrolling in courses, right? This is at the point of application, that's when a lot of these things come up, and as students are getting ready to elect their courses. You will notice, however, that for reimbursement, Nicole was just speaking to everyone about how, reimbursements will trigger themselves automatically around September 14th. That automatic reimbursement process by the business office will occur until our office receives the bill for that particular semester. That is late in the game. And so if a student manages to get that far without following the proper deadlines and it results in a withdrawal from their personal account, then that student would then need to submit a reimbursement appeal to our office. And please keep in mind that that reimbursement is a one-time reimbursement. So if you're caught in the lane of finishing your requirements, school's starting, there's a lot to think about. You didn't quite give us your no need letter, but you did everything else, right? There is a certain grace period where you'll get an automatic reimbursement. However, once our office receives that bill from KCC for the semester to then pay for you, our Legacy Scholars, just keep in mind that once you get that far, it is a one-time request. It is our hope, as we discussed in session 1, that the student would then learn from that experience and get familiar with the process, because it does require extra work, and with the billing, it can get quite complicated. So to save you from those details, please remember to contact staff at BCCAN or at KCC's Office of Financial Aid. Should you have any issues with our processes, our staff would be more than happy to help. So thank you so much. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to the question and answer portion of the presentation, and I'll turn it over to Laura to see if we have any current questions so far.
At the current moment, we do not have any questions. So if anybody does have any questions they would like to pose now and think that maybe that might benefit the whole group, we would certainly welcome those. You can type them into the question and answer box. Otherwise, we do have other opportunities for you to ask questions if you think of something later. So do not fret, this is not your only opportunity, but we do encourage questions now if you have them.
Excellent. And how about I get things kicked off as our attendees seek to, ask any questions themselves. I'm going to go back to Nicole's financial aid presentation. Specifically, a common question that I get when working with students is about the dependent verification worksheet. And when it comes down to providing documents to the Office of Financial Aid. Nicole, if a student completes their FAFSA and they are expected to complete the dependent student verification worksheet, and they're at the portion where they're submitting their parental information, we talked a little bit about, so my biological parents have divorced, if the parent is married or has remarried, then they would include that information. What if that student's parent did not remarry?
Sure. If parent that the student is living with did not remarry and they're just head of household, that's what we would want to see on the dependent verification worksheet. We just want to get and gain a snapshot of the reality of the household and what it looks like at that moment in time. So mom would put down her name and any other siblings the student may have, as well as provide her 1040, which should have head of household as the filing status.
Excellent. And then just as a separate and complete follow-up, completely separate, follow-up question, and I can speak to the Legacy Scholars appeal process here in a bit, but Nicole, just given an estimate, and certainly we're in the midst of a pandemic, what's the general processing time? What should students and parents expect for an appeal form should they have to regain their satisfactory academic progress status?
Generally, when we're not under such unprecedented times, it would be around 5 to 7 business days that we'd ask for review. But let's just say that spring of 2021, the college is closed and we've been ordered to work virtually. We recommend that the students still complete the appeal form and provide it to us virtually. It will take more or less around 10 business days to have that completed because the volume seems to increase with different types of workload. So it could take a little longer to get through those if the college does close down again.
Okay. And then if you give me just a moment, everyone, I will take us back to our presentation just as a quick note about the Legacy Scholars appeal process timeline. For the eligibility appeals, the part-time credit hour appeals, and the financial aid waivers, our staff can generally handle those quite quickly. So I'd say, for something like requesting part-time, that is a very quick turnover. We can do that in the span of a week. Just as Nicole was saying, 5 to 7 business days. The same for the financial aid issues and requirements. Eligibility and reimbursement do take a bit more time, and particularly with eligibility, every time a student has a disagreement with how those eligible credit hours were determined, that information must go to the Battle Creek College Access Network and Legacy Scholars Board of Directors. So please anticipate that those bi-monthly meetings, there will be up to 1.5 to 2 months to get a turnaround on that decision, unless it is, a dire circumstance and must be taken up kind of in an emergency format. But we, to this date, have not seen that. So I thought it might be helpful for attendees to understand just a bit more about what's the amount of time that they might be waiting for those documents, those required documents to be processed. So very good. Let's go ahead and check back in with Laura. Laura, any other questions?
None have come through, so I think we've done an okay job of providing some thorough information for now.
Absolutely. And so let's go into, and please, if you do think of something as I continue, feel free to just pop it in that chat box and we will get that addressed. But I wanted to just discuss quickly the ways that you all can contact us. If you would like to contact with Laura Zale or Terry Burleson today, you can contact us in our office. Please keep in mind that right now we are working remotely, but note the telephone number. You can leave a voicemail for either Laura or Terry, and our emails are there as well. Nicole Cook, the KCC Director of Financial Aid, can be reached at that telephone number or by emailing finaid@kellogg.edu. You can also keep up to date with BC Can by following us on social media. We have an Instagram account, a Facebook account, and also our own free mobile application where you can receive updates on our programming in the community, different events such as this summer orientation virtual series. You can receive updates on featured news stories of notable legacy scholar successes or important articles regarding issues related to education after high school. And we also have available the ability to provide push notifications so that we can jump on that screen and alert you of any urgent or crucial information for student success. So you would search our name, Battle Creek, capital C-A-N, and you can download that for free in Google Play and Apple stores. Following today's presentation, and also as a means to adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic, our office hours, traditionally held on campus in August, have been extended into the month of July, specifically to follow our webinar presentations that you have joined us today live. But we will continue to make ourselves available to you at all times. And you can accept the link to those virtual office hours by emailing me at terry@battlecreekcan.org. And lastly, just recall that this is a three-part series. And so today's session is required documents and financial aid. We will offer this presentation one more time on Thursday, July 16th, before moving on to our final presentations, which are course registration and renewing legacy. And as you will see, the presentations for course registration and renewing legacy will recap important information from session 1 and 2. We'll discuss how we communicate our legacy scholarship information to students and to KCC. We'll also provide details on the course registration process, as well as a reminder on how students can keep their legacy scholarship active from academic year to academic year. Because remember, our legacy scholars have 5 years to use their eligible credit hours, but that renewal process is consistent. And so you can join us on Tuesday, July 28th or Thursday, July 30th for that. And at this time, to respect everyone's time this afternoon, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today. I'd also like to thank our Senior Program Officer with the Battle Creek College Access Network, Laura Zale, and the Director of Financial Aid at Kellogg Community College, Nicole Cook, for taking the time to be with us and to provide this important information. And with that, we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks so much, everyone, and take care.